Hello, this is Crispin Flintoff from Not the Andrew Marr Show. Before this video starts, I'd just like to ask if you'd subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because we will be covering the general election from a totally different perspective from what you get from the mainstream media. We'll be talking about the candidates who are taking on Labour and the Tories and pushing them all the way. So please subscribe and get updates. There's lots of good independent candidates. However, I want to say something else about the independence thing is it has taken off that there are lots and lots of independents and it's hard to tell which are which. And I had a rather upsetting conversation earlier with a candidate who has pulled out because he has seen that he would be splitting the vote if he stood. And he's actually the upsetting thing is he's gone away to recuperate from the ordeal that he's gone through. And this is a short interview I had with him while he was in Africa on Zoom. And this is Ammar Anwar, who was going to stand in Batley and Dewsbury, and I'm sure many of you may have seen him speak on this. I'm really pleased to be joined by Ammar Anwar, who's joining us from away in Africa. How are you doing, Ammar?
I'm doing well, Crispin, and I appreciate you taking your time out to have me on your show.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on. Now, the reason I wanted to speak to you is that you've actually stood down as a candidate to let someone else stand in your constituency. Now, you spoke really well at national demonstration, very powerfully about taking on Starmer at the ballot box. But you've realised that splitting the vote is a bad thing, and the priority has to be to get rid of Starmer. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I'll start off from my home constituency of Batley and Dewsbury. I was the first one 6 months ago to announce my candidacy for the parliamentary. I solely am responsible for the independent movement that I made by resigning in Kirklees and across the country as well. I think my speech stole millions of hearts that night when I resigned. And the reception I got off the media and everybody was overwhelming. I wasn't expecting that sort of reception. And then obviously me alongside other left-wing candidates announced our candidacy on the 4th of February in London at the Million March. And the movement carried on, and we are now in this point where I personally believe across many winnable constituencies by the independent movement, there are conspiracies there taking place where we've got multiple candidates standing independently. I mean, in Dewsbury and Batley, the guy that stood, he's never been to a Palestinian protest. He's never knocked on a door for any political party. He's never leafleted. He's not known in the community. But there was two organizations behind him that got elite members of the community behind him, and they selected him through a fair process. But the selection process, the selectors, we don't know who they are, what backgrounds they hold, or what qualifications they have to determine an independent candidate. I mean, are you truly and really an independent if you get selected by a panel? I don't think so. And obviously, I realized that if I stood, I would have come second, might not have won, but I would have taken more votes than the third independent. So I decided, for the sake of Palestine, that's why I resigned. That's why all this cause has been started. And I took the step to stand down as a parliamentary independent candidate for Dewsbury and Batley and allow him to challenge Labour. And a crossover in Bradford, in one specific ward, we have 4 independent candidates. In Birmingham, we have 2, 3 in one constituency. And this will ensure that Labour get in. And it's unfortunate that we're in these circumstances. There's a mass genocide going on as we're talking now. Kids are dying, women are dying, men are dying, animals are dying. And all we're fighting over is to get into the House of Parliament, which is the biggest cowardly thing anybody could do. And it's a shame that we've come to this. And I do believe that there is some involvement from key people within the Labour Party for propping these independent candidates up. I do think it's a conspiracy to make sure like seats like Bradford, Dewsbury, Birmingham are held or won for the Labour candidate, having multiple independent candidates. My appeal to everybody is whoever announced their candidacy first, get behind that person and make sure they win. Do not become a blockade in the way. And unfortunately, I was the first to announce in Dewsbury and Batley, but obviously people didn't acknowledge that, or they tried airbrushing me out of history. And I did the right thing. I made history again by stepping back. And it's not about being an MP and raising your voice for Palestine. It's more about being human and raising your voice for Palestine. This is a key issue. I mean, there's injustices happening in Kashmir, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Ukraine, and others. And we need to be human to feel their pain, what they're going through, and raise it in the best manner possible. And now the general election, I think people are using it to their own personal gain and advantage, which is absolutely disgusting behavior. And my appeal is simple to everybody, guys: unite, get behind one candidate, and make that candidate successful against the establishment parties, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party.
Right. Well, I have invited onto the Zoom Wais Islam from Holborn St Pancras. He's planning to stand, as you can see in his name, independent parliamentary candidate. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Hi, Crispin. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
The thing is, this election, we're seeing lots of split votes. And in Holborn and St Pancras, we've had this campaign. Many people on this Zoom are following the campaign to unseat Keir Starmer. And they've been working on this for months and months and months. And Andrew Feinstein has been picked by a number of different groups to stand in Holborn and St Pancras. Now, I believe you're planning to put your nomination papers in tomorrow to stand in that seat. So you'll be standing against Andrew Feinstein and Keir Starmer. Have you got any idea of? Is there any way that you could reconsider your decision on this?
Okay, thank you for inviting me, Crispin. And I did participate in your on your channel previously. You covered my speech outside Camden Town Hall, and this is 6 months ago. So I started this campaign in October, back in October, after the Gaza assault started by Israel, and I set up something called Camden Gaza Ceasefire Association. And Okisa were invited, and they did, come and listen to us, and they even spoke at the meeting. So it's not like they're unaware. And I didn't go there to stand as an MP, but rather to create awareness amongst the Bangladeshi, Somali, and the various ethnic minority communities about what's happening in Gaza, because mainstream media weren't covering the story. As you know, BBC didn't cover the story on its main website. It was far below, and the main channels, they were just writing it off like it's a non-story. So what's happened is, over the months, we've created a momentum bringing together traditional Labour voters who in the area have voted for Frank Dobson previously, and for the last 3 terms for Keir Starmer. And more than 50% of the Labour voters appear to be of an ethnic minority origin, predominantly Bangladeshi and Somali. Now, there's been a boundary change, which most people are unaware of. From 86,000 electorate, it's been reduced to now 67,000. It was 72, it's gone down even more. And experts like Professor John Curtis, who's the leading election guru, are saying areas where Labour Party MPs enjoy huge support from Muslims are going to be affected in the forthcoming election. Now, I have done this previously, whereby in Tower Hamlets, where I was a former councillor, I am a former councillor for Whitechapel, and we got George Galloway elected in 2005 to depose Una King, who supported the Iraq War 2 years after she'd voted for it in Parliament. And I'm using the same experience in Holborn and St Pancras to bring people together and form an alliance with other anti-Keir Starmer individuals, and so that we can actually do the work on the ground. I'm not on social media, which is why your viewers haven't seen me much. I believe in face-to-face as opposed to Facebook and walking and talking instead of TikTok.
Can I just? Sorry, we haven't got very long on this Zoom. It's an hour long. Now look, the thing is, you know that Andrew Feinstein is going to stand. He has already, I believe, put his nomination papers in. And you know that Keir Starmer has got a big majority anyway. So if the anti-Keir Starmer vote is split, then the chances are that someone who has supported genocide in Gaza and has purged many people who are on this call from the Labour Party for false accusations of anti-Semitism, the most despicable, dishonest man who I've ever known in politics. If he benefits from you standing against Andrew Feinstein, then how can we how can you go on after that? I mean, you'll be.
Let me interrupt there.
You can't expect Andrew Feinstein to stand down. I mean, let me say something else. Let me say something else. Sorry, look. There's stories about your background that are going around because you don't go on social media, but there's stuff about your.
Let me tell you one thing.
Look, we've got this one here. This is the guy who runs the Muslim vote. We have a problem in Holborn St Pancras. We're rightly backed, long-time anti-apartheid campaigner Andrew Feinstein. He can expose Starmer's own seat, but brother Wais Islam will split the vote. I asked him to step down for Gaza. Let's work together. Someone's written that your wife is the chief whip of Tower Hamlets Council. She's close to Rush Noah, who is someone that we're also kind of not keen on because she is someone who didn't vote against the ceasefire. She's also close to Luke Akehurst, Labour's chief Zionist and part of Labour to Win. She spoke last year at the Jewish Labour Movement Conference. Why?
Look, allow me to answer because you're throwing in a number of questions here.
Can you answer that?
Yeah. Okay. So firstly, firstly, she is her own person, and civil liberties, equality, gender equality, human rights, Islamophobia, misogyny, all of that is at play. I don't think, I should speak for her. She, I regard her very highly. I speak of her very highly as my wife, and I think she's entitled to her political opinion. In the same way, Sam Tarry was with Angela Rayner. He's with Jeremy Corbyn. She's with Starmer. I don't want to go into that. My main question here is that if I've united the Muslim vote in Holborn and St Pancras, and it is the only factor, the biggest factor, not the only factor, the biggest factor in defeating Keir Starmer, why is it that Andrew Feinstein is challenging me to split the Muslim vote? I'm not the one who's splitting the Muslim vote. Andrew is a great guy. He's a great campaigner. He's a great anti-arms trade campaigner. He's a great anti-apartheid campaigner. He is not a politician on the ground where I have been working with voters face-to-face, door knocking, thousands of voters who are going to vote for me. And they're the ones who've asked me to go and campaign there and stand as a parliamentary candidate. They want me to stand as
He has more experience than you.
He has experience in South Africa. He has experience in South Africa, not in London. I have a past track record of de-electing Una King and helping George Galloway get elected in 2005. The following year, 12 of us got elected as councillors. I should not be undermined because the voters of Camden will decide who becomes the MP, who defeats Keir Starmer. I've been working day in, day out for the last 7 months, working with voters, not just Bangladeshis and Somalis. On a personal capacity, the co-chair of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, Luca Salice, who's here, who's resigned from the Labour Party after 30 years, He's backing me. There are so many other people from the Somali community, the pro-Remain community, people who wanted to stay in the EU, and Keir Starmer didn't do a good job.
But
I've got my support. If I didn't believe I could defeat Keir Starmer, I wouldn't be standing. But to throw misogyny at my wife is totally unacceptable. She's a highly respected woman, and I think you shouldn't believe everything that's written there. If there's any questions, please ask her directly. She's a respected councillor in Tower Hamlets, like myself. I was a councillor also in Labour Party for many years. I've represented the people.
Let me ask you a different question then.
Sure.
What do you think about the idea that there's people in the Labour Party deliberately putting up independents to split the vote against?
I think that's totally wrong.
Against the genocidal Starmer and the rest of them.
Firstly, nobody's front.
We've already had
let me make this point very clear.
Anti-Semitism thrown out.
Crispin,
we've had so much dirt thrown about.
Crispin, you mustn't compare me to all these other candidates. As Ammar said, the first candidate to declare should be back. I am that first candidate. The voters of Camden asked me to stand. I didn't even register my vote in Camden because I want to prove to the world that the people of Camden, not any party, the people of Camden, the voters of Camden have ousted Keir Starmer, and they will do. And the reason I didn't go on social media, do you want to know why? Because Keir Starmer shouldn't move to a safe seat. The deadline is Friday. If he moves to a safe seat, he'll get elected and come in as Prime Minister. Tomorrow, Friday is the deadline. He has nowhere to go. It's checkmate. Whether Andrew stands or not, I am winning this election. Andrew could move to Hampstead and Highgate and stand in Camden. If he really wants to win and become an MP, he can do that. We can help each other. I will help him there. He will help me. And we can work together. And Jeremy Corbyn is in the neighboring constituency of Islington North. We're going to help him as well. I think we should work together. When we can have 3 seats, why are we satisfied with just 2?
You sent me a picture this evening of Ken Livingstone next to you. Isn't that right?
Yes, I went to see him. He's unwell. I just went to see him. It's not an endorsement.
He's actually retired from politics.
Yes, I didn't go there. I went to see him whether he is well.
Why are you putting out pictures of you and Ken Livingstone?
I went to see him because he's unwell. I went to see him to wish him.
And you took a picture of him with you, and send it around. Yeah?
No, his wife took it. So you know, if you have a problem with that,
but you shared it.
It's not on social media. It's not anywhere. If you find it anywhere, please let me know. I only sent it to you to show that I went to see Ken Livingstone. Why are you mixing this personal thing?
I think you're scraping the barrel.
Have you seen this picture anywhere? Why don't you ask Andrew
to
step down and not split the Muslim vote? No, Crispin, listen to me.
Listen to me.
Why don't you ask?
I've got the mute, right? I've got the mute, and I'm muting you because, listen, there's no way that I'm going to accept someone splitting the vote when the people have been trying to campaign to stop Starmer for months and months and months, and you're just talking about your own career and who you want to be, and it's got nothing to do with a movement. You're not interested in a movement. And I'm absolutely sick of it that you're actually going to stand. And I'm going to put a video out showing what you've said and let people judge for themselves. And I'll leave it there. Thank you for coming on.